I'd like to thank Miss Yolanda, Marlena, and Evelyn. Title I is excited to partner with Child Center for Early Learning. My name is Mary Cook, and I'm the Parent and Family Engagement Coordinator for Alachua County Public Schools Title I Department. Kindergarten is an exciting time for you and your child, and we know that families play an important role in transition to kindergarten. So the purpose of tonight is to provide you with information and resources that will help you as you prepare for Kindergarten Roundup in the upcoming school year. You may have heard the term Title I or Title I school, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about what that means. Title I is the largest federally funded educational program, and Title I funds are allocated to supplement or provide an additional layer of support. And Title I does that in three main ways. We work to improve student achievement, improve staff development, and increase parent and family engagement in schools. Now let's talk about what that might look like in a school. Title I collaborates with schools, families, and community members. In a school, it might look like intervention programs that take place during the school day, after school, and even on Saturdays. Title I also provides funding for supplemental materials and technology. Funding is also provided for personnel such as teachers and paraprofessionals. Title I works to create partnerships with families, and schools regularly hold workshops and family events. We also ask for feedback from families at our events and through SAC and PTA. The purpose of Title I is to provide all Title I eligible students with strategic, high-quality academic supports. Now let's take a look at the agenda for our time together this evening. The focus of tonight is to give you the tools you will need to be ready for Kindergarten Roundup and your child's first day of kindergarten. This evening we will cover kindergarten readiness skills, transitioning to kindergarten family workshop, kindergarten roundup, kindergarten readiness materials provided by Title I, how to find your zoned school. We'll look at the registration process. We'll also talk about academic suggestions for the summer and Title I parent and family engagement resources such as our website and social media accounts. Many parents ask about the purpose of kindergarten screeners. So let's look at the ones that are currently in place. Some elementary schools conduct an informal screening during the summer or at the start of the school year. If a school does this during the summer, they'll go ahead and contact you to schedule a time for you to bring your child in. This is not something that all schools do, and also we have to remember with COVID, this COVID procedures in place this summer, they may not be able to do those summer screenings. But at the beginning of the school year, kindergarten students will take the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Assessment. It's called DIBELS. DIBELS is taken 3 times during the school year. It is a one-on-one assessment, and the purpose of DIBELS is to regularly monitor the development of early literacy skills. DIBELS monitors student progress in the areas of letter naming fluency, initial sound fluency, phoneme segmentation, nonsense words fluency, and oral reading fluency. Kindergarten students also take the Florida Kindergarten Readiness Screener, or FLICRS, assessment within the first 30 days of the school year. FLICRS is aligned to the early learning and development standards for 4-year-olds to kindergarten. The assessment covers phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, vocabulary, and number sense. The purpose of these screeners is to assess kindergarten readiness skills, help teachers develop lesson plans, modify instructional delivery as needed to meet each child's needs, and identify areas needed for intervention, as well as provide information for parents. With DIBELS and FLICRS, there are parent reports that the teacher is able to share with you, so you will know how your child is progressing through the school year. Additional diagnostics can be done as needed to monitor particular skill areas. Next, we will go a bit deeper into a few kindergarten readiness skills to see how they play out during the kindergarten school year. The language arts and math readiness skills you see here are typically assessed on informal kindergarten screeners. As you heard, flickers and dibbles go a bit more in depth to include phonological and phonemic awareness skills. I want to talk a bit further about how the skills you see here are necessary foundational skills by explaining how students will be expected to expand on these skills by the end of kindergarten. If we think about the English Language Arts Pre-K Florida Early Learning and Development Standards for 4-year-olds going into kindergarten, they are expected to know all the upper and lowercase letter names and some of the sounds. By the end of the kindergarten school year, students will be able to say all of the upper and lowercase letter names and know all of their sounds. They'll have phonological awareness in order to manipulate words, and they'll have an understanding of phonics to be able to decode words. Now let's talk about math. The Math Pre-K Florida Early Learning and Development Standards state that students that are 4 years old going into kindergarten should be able to count up to the number 31, read and write numbers to 10, and recognize 2- and 3-dimensional shapes, the circle, square, triangle, and rectangle. And if we take that same standard and talk about what that looks like by the end of kindergarten, students should be able to count up to the number 100, recognize 2- and 3-dimensional shapes, and this refers to the circle, triangle, rectangle, and square, but it also includes the sphere, cube, cones, and cylinders. And with those shapes, the students are asked to be able to notice and discuss how the shapes are alike and different. So you can see how the kindergarten readiness skills for language arts and math are necessary in order for the child to have those foundational skills and then be able to continue to build on those throughout the kindergarten school year. There are 2 other areas that focus on important kindergarten skills. And though they are non-academic, they support academic achievement. The first one is self-regulation. And when we talk about self-regulation skills, we're asking that students have the ability to focus and attend to a task. We also discuss their ability to manage their emotions, behavior, and body movement. We'd like for them to be able to listen to and follow directions as well as work with others. And another important skill is how to ask for help. And these skills are important because students do not spend all of their time in one classroom. They start their day in their homeroom classroom, but then if you think about it, they also transition during the day to lunch. They may go to resource class such as art, music, and PE. They spend time transitioning during the day in the hallways. And then at dismissal, they may be with a different adult than their regular teacher. And so these skills come into play in all of those areas. Another topic to talk about is the importance of attendance. Alachua County Public Schools define attendance as being in school each school day, being on time, and also staying for the entire school day. Lessons build on the previous day's lessons, and so missed instructional time and lessons can cause students to fall behind, and that can be very stressful for a student. And it's good if they're able to make up the schoolwork, but it's not the same as if they were present for the instruction and the assistance from the teacher. I'd now like to briefly describe a few ways that you can continue to incorporate these kindergarten readiness skills into what you're already doing each day. So on this slide, there are a few brief examples of how to incorporate the kindergarten readiness skills into your daily routine. And I'm not going to read the entire slide to you, but there are a few I'd like to point out. The first one I'd like to talk about is vocabulary. Summer is a good time to work to increase your child's vocabulary. And that can be done while you're reading, but it can also be done while you're just going about your everyday life. So if you're talking about, for example, a tree, If your child describes a tree as big, you could also point out that another word for big is enormous. Also talking about opposites such as tall and short, and any type of observation, encouraging them to describe what they're seeing. For the subject of math, you can do a lot with a deck of cards. You can compare numbers, you could add or subtract. Another thing to point out from math would be the use of a calendar. Your student can learn to count down to a particular date, or just learning the basic understanding of how a calendar works. When they're having snack at home, you could give them an amount of a snack in a bowl and ask them to estimate or guess how many goldfish, for example, are in the bowl. And then before they eat them, they could count them and compare that to their estimate. Reading out loud every day is another way that you can build vocabulary and reading skills with your child. Students often like to have a book reread to them over and over, and that's certainly a good way to encourage reading. You could have your child point to letters, talk about the sounds. You could model and then have them clap the number of syllables in different words. You could point out and talk about rhyming words. And this also includes words in the environment, like the store or your neighborhood or as you're driving around town. And there are kindergarten sight words that we'll talk about in a minute, and we will be providing you with those flashcards, and we'll talk about some games you can play with those. Some sensory ideas that can be done at home include making letters and numbers or shapes with Play-Doh or drawing them in the sand. We're going to switch gears a bit, and I'll now share information about an upcoming webinar event, Kindergarten Roundup, and kindergarten registration. Title I has partnered with Alachua County Public School Departments to bring you an informational webinar opportunity. The webinar will be held on Thursday, April 22nd at 9 o'clock in the morning and again at 3:30 in the afternoon. And we are asking that you register in advance if possible. We have some special guests that will be joining us for the webinar. Dr. Carly Simon, the superintendent of Alachua County Public Schools, has a special welcome message for incoming families. We also have members of the COVID-19 response team for the district that will be talking about the safety procedures that the schools have in place. We have departments such as exceptional student education, FTE and state reporting, the ESOL department, elementary curriculum, and also Title I that will be presenting information for families. This will be live streamed on the Alachua County Public Schools YouTube channel, and it will go a lot more in depth about registration and zoning information. So if you haven't already, you should go ahead and register. If you do register but are unable to attend, you will receive an email with a link to the recording. And when registration closes, you can still join the webinar links that will be published on our social media accounts, our website, and it will also be, as I mentioned, live streamed on the Alachua County Public Schools YouTube channel. So Kindergarten Roundup this school year will take place on April 28th. And due to COVID safety procedures, it will be virtual through each school. And after you attend Kindergarten Roundup, you will then be able to complete the online registration process. At Kindergarten Roundup, you will be able to virtually meet with school administrators and school staff, review school policies and important first day procedures. They may walk you through the registration paperwork and even do a virtual campus tour. Each school will do it a little bit differently. I'd like to go now live to the district website to show you some kindergarten information about Kindergarten Roundup. So this page that you're looking at here, called Kindergarten 2021, has been developed specifically for incoming kindergarten families, and it contains all information you need about Kindergarten Roundup and registration, as well as some general information and additional links. So if we take a look at this page here, You can see on the left of your screen the Welcome to Kindergarten family workshop that I mentioned. And then we also have the Kindergarten Roundup flyer that's advertising the event on April 28th. And the link from that flyer will take you to this website right here. And this is where each school is going to post the date and time as well as the Zoom link for virtual kindergarten roundup. And all of those sessions are going to be held on April 28th. I'm sure that each school will also post this information on their school website, but this is a link directly from the Kindergarten 2021 page that holds all the school information. And you can also see you have the contact person for each school as well as the school's telephone number. So if you need, if you have any additional questions, you know who to contact at each school to ask questions about virtual kindergarten roundup. There's also another page I like to share with you. And this one is also linked directly from the Kindergarten 2021 webpage. And these are tips to help you become involved in your child's school. And I know it's been a little bit different this year with COVID. It's been hard with parents not being able to be in their child's school as they're used to. But hopefully next year we'll start to be able to have volunteers in the school. But these are 11 different ways that you can become involved, even if you're not able to go into the school and volunteer. So that's another thing that was there for you. Next, I'd like to show you one of the ways that you can find your zone school. So from the Alachua County Public Schools homepage, which is www.sbac.edu, you would go to Families, and from there a drop-down link will open and you'll see a very large menu. I've only captured part of it here on the slide for you. But the resources and information will drop down, and you will want to click on where it says find your zone school and bus here. And there's a yellow arrow on the slide for you. There will not be any bus information, but what will open up after that is what you see on the right side of your screen. You'll put in your child's grade and your address, and then you will click on find school and transportation information. There will not be any transportation information yet. However, it will tell you what your school that you're zoned for is. And after you find your zone school and attend kindergarten roundup, you will be able to register your child for kindergarten. And kindergarten registration will open on April 28th. And if you do not want to go through this route of finding your zone school, you can also call the student assignment office, and I've included that phone number on the top left of your screen. Let's go ahead and look at another website. This is the Office of Student Assignment, which is also referred to as zoning. And on this website, actually, we need to get to that part here. So for enrollment and registration, these are the frequently asked questions about enrollment. And if you continue to scroll down, you will see the health records that are required. And if you continue to scroll down, this is very important information here. This is all the paperwork that you'll need to gather in order to complete online registration. And since registration is being done online this year, you're going to be asked to upload several different documents. And I would recommend going ahead and taking a look at this list, gathering everything together so that it's a little bit easier to complete the online registration process. It's also on this slide here for you. There's a link to the enrollment and registration screen that I just shared, as well as a list of the paperwork that you will need in order to compile for registration. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is our Title I website. You can get to this from the school board's main webpage. So that's www.sbac.edu. You would go to departments, and then you would go to Title I. And on the Title I website, we have many different resources that I'd like to share. At the top of the website is a little bit about what I shared with you at the start of our time together this evening. It's a program overview of Title I. Over to the right, you will see links to register for the upcoming event on April 22nd, if you'd like to do it from our website. And then if you scroll down, we have information for parents and families to use. We have educational links, and we also have informational links. So the educational links are mostly different sites that children can go to play learning games. Most of them have a free portion, and then if you choose to subscribe, that's up to you. But there's a very long list of sites that your child can go to continue with the kindergarten readiness skills. In addition to that, we also have academic resources for students and families. And so if you click this link here, it will open up some resources for you to use at home. We have math resources. You can also select reading, which we have a lot more of. And we've started to add some science resources as well. So that's directly from our website. And in addition to that, each month we have the Parents Make the Difference newsletter, and that's loaded onto our website at the beginning of each month. It's available for elementary, middle, and high school students, and it's available in English and Spanish. And so that's another resource for you to look at each month. There is also an activity calendar that goes with this. This part of the website is currently being updated, but normally you would see a calendar, and each day it gives you something that you can do at home with your child to help build their academic skills. We also have a Title I parent and family engagement account on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And on Twitter and Facebook, we post upcoming event information as well as helpful tips and resources for families. I'd like to take a minute and show you our YouTube channel. And this goes along with the sight word activity page that I was talking about. So if you go to our YouTube channel and then go to our videos and scroll down closer to the bottom, we have several different activities that these are showcased in these videos. And these videos are made with local elementary school teachers and our kindergarten students. And these are activities that do not require any special materials. They're things that you probably already have at home. And our videos range from 2 to 7 minutes. And they always begin with an introduction to the activity, as well as the directions for how to do the activity or game, and any materials that you might need to gather from home before you get started. And you would use the kindergarten sight words that Title I has provided for you. And these are the first 100 sight words that are covered in kindergarten. And these are fast-paced, fun ways for students to practice their sight words. It's more exciting for them than just doing drill and skill with flashcards. And each of these showcase a different way. And the ones at the bottom are from the beginning of the school year. And so these are the sight words in isolation. And then if you look towards the middle of the videos, these were done in January and February. And this was showing how kindergarten students are transitioning from sight words in isolation to being able to recognize and read these sight words in short phrases and sentences, as well as in decodable readers. And as a follow-up to this meeting, you will be receiving materials that were dropped off at the Child Center last week. And these are materials that are provided from Title I. And you will be receiving a welcome letter from Superintendent Dr. Carly Simon. There's a brochure for parents with useful information on kindergarten readiness. You also have books, and each book has an activity guide that walks you through different activities you can do with your child as you read the book. You have the first 100 fry words, and so those are the sight words that are covered in kindergarten. And that would be huge if you can get a jump on some of those sight words during the summer. It also includes a summer reading journal, and so you can record the books that you and your child read together. And these there are some important readiness skills that are not academic in nature, but that will be important for your child to become familiar with. And so I'd like to talk about those now. We keep using the word transition when talking about the kindergarten school year because it's a big year for new skills. And that includes becoming more independent and responsible. You can continue to help with that at home, which will make it much easier for your child next year. And so on this slide, you see some suggestions. And I'm going to talk about a few of those. You can talk with your child already this summer about putting things away. And so you can show or model how to put toys away at home. You can talk about and practice taking turns during a game. You can talk through ways to get along with each other. And this can be done by pointing out things about characters and stories that you're reading, or it could be done with real life situations. You can encourage active listening. We're all very distracted trying to juggle multiple tasks, and this is a good time to model the stop and focus on the person talking skill that students will need. You can also use the summer, if possible, to create a schedule for your child. Kids thrive on routine because they know what to expect next, and then there is less of a chance of them to become upset. And this includes giving transitions before changing from one activity to another. And that might be something like a time warning. Okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to turn off the television and get ready for bed. So if you give that warning up front, then it's not the same to your child as if you just say, turn off the TV, it's time for bed. It gives them a warning of what's coming next. Summer is also a great time to teach your child a few age-appropriate chores. Some of those may be making their bed, setting the table, helping to clear the table, sweeping the floor, taking out the garbage, feeding a pet. The next thing I want to talk about is mealtime. And this is something that as adults we often take for granted. But at school, lunch is 30 minutes. And that includes the amount of time spent in line if they're getting a school lunch. So really your child needs to be able to eat in about 25 to 20 minutes. And that includes socializing time. So at home, you can focus on having your child open things on their own. And that way you can see what they're struggling with and work on it over the summer. You can also see what you may or may not want to be packing for snack or for their lunch. And I'm talking about things like being able to open milk cartons, put the straw in a Capri Sun, string cheese sometimes is difficult, and chips is another thing. Can your child open their own bag of chips? And if you choose to pack fruit, like an orange, are they able to peel their own orange? Of course, there are adults in the cafeteria, but you have a certain number of adults to many classes in the cafeteria often at a time. So it's a good idea if your child's able to do most of these things by themselves. You can also talk about table manners and being aware of their own space and body movement, since they typically will have a student on each side of them as well as across from them at the lunchroom table. Another thing to consider during the summer is having your child practice with zippers, snaps, and buttons. and shoelaces or their straps on their shoes. Kindergarten students are not required to tie their own shoelaces. It's a bonus if they are able to do that in kindergarten. But if they're not able to tie their own shoelaces, at least being aware when they're untied and then asking for help to get them tied for safety reasons. And we also want to think about continuing to reinforce the safety precautions of hand washing and masking. And we're unsure at this time about masking for next school year, but hand washing is always something that we want kids to do. Talking to adults is another important skill. Making sure your child is able to tell the adult their full name, which means their first and last name. So when a kindergarten student gets off the bus on the first day of school, that can be a very scary experience. And you have adults all over campus trying to make sure students get to their class. And there are many times that kindergarten students are very nervous, and so they will clam up and not tell the adult their name, or they'll only say their first name. And so the adult's trying to figure out, their last name in order to figure out where they go to class. So have your child be able to tell an adult their first and last name. It's also important for them to know how they get home each day. What bus are they getting on? Who's picking them up in the car line? Are they a walker? Those are all important facts to start talking about. And as I mentioned earlier, encouraging your child not to be afraid to ask for help or to advocate for their needs at schools with the different adults on campus. We're all here to help, and it's important that they be able to speak up. And that was a lot of information. This recording will be posted on our social media accounts and on our website, and you will also receive a copy of this presentation emailed to you. Thank you again for including Title I in your meeting this evening. I've enjoyed my time with you, and I hope you found the information and resources helpful. Please take a minute to take our brief survey. And the purpose of this is to provide us with feedback, because we use that feedback when we are preparing for future presentations. You can use the QR code now, or you can use the link when you receive a copy of this presentation. We look forward to meeting you and your family next school year. Thank you.